If you are ready to go, take it away.
All right, thanks so much. So today we are going to be talking a bit about the iMIS order confirmations. And just as a side note for those of you on iMIS, depending on the version that I'm using in my demo environment is really the latest version. It's the Q4 20.2 version. So I think they've moved around where you find some of these pieces in 20.2 depending on which version you're at. So if you notice, oh, this looks a little bit different in my version, that's probably true. But at least for the most part you should have the functionality available or be able to see kind of how and where to do things. If you have older versions of iMIS 20, there's also places to do the customizations. They just tend to be held in files rather than having a nice user interface that we'll be looking at today. So if you have any questions or whatnot, please feel free to contact me after the webinar and I can give you some information if you're not exactly at the same version. All right, so thinking about the order confirmations, what we're going to be touching on today are the confirmations that are sent out really automatically from the system when a person either purchases products, registers events, basically transactions that they're passing through the cart. It automatically sends an order confirmation back to them, basically saying yes, whatever you purchased is moving forward and confirms that for them. And so it's a consolidated order confirmation. So even though we call it orders, it also is what the events module uses and that kind of thing, because as you know, iMIS has the ability to have a mixed cart, and so you can have any number of things regardless of the type of items that they are. So that's why you have a single order confirmation that you kind of try to make as, I wouldn't say generic, but maybe as universal as possible to accommodate multiple functions. So that's something to keep in mind. So in talking about order confirmation, one of the nice things that is true kind of across the board in iMIS 20 is that you can use a lot of out-of-the-box templates. They have templates that are included with the software, so it's great. You can grab those, modify them, kind of make them your own. You can add fields, you can add logos, you can do things like that on these order confirmations. And then you can say, oh, if I wanted to update it from the one that's existing or out of the box, I can set that to my new order confirmation and have it begin using that. If you think of out of the box, I think the one that it uses has some kind of nice ASI branding, iMIS branding, where of course you'll want to tailor this to be more in line with your organization. So in order to update the order confirmation, I am going to be accessing the staff site in the RISE tool. And so you'll notice that when I'm going to be already logged in, but I'm logging into the staff site. I need to have proper rights. So I either need to have a sysadmin rights or have rights set up in the content authority group area, so one of the two. And then typically it depends on how your staff sites may be configured, but your URL might look something like whatever your site URL is /staff is fairly common. So, all right, so I'm going to kind of want to go through, take a look at some existing ones, and in our example today we're going to change the order confirmation. There's other templates out here, and so you can kind of take a look at them, and I'm going to show you another way to use the templates as well, kind of another way to use them and that you might find useful as you maybe are sending additional pieces of information out to your members. So I'm going to switch over here, and right now I am in the staff site in my demo environment. And so to kind of start off the process, I'm going to go and like I said, things move around, but in this version, I go to marketing and I go to communication templates. You'll notice that I have a lot of things showing right now in my left-hand navigation, and that's just because I think I have access to nearly all the modules because this is a demo environment, so yours is probably a little bit more streamlined. But if I go to Communication Template, inside of this, I have a Templates folder, and then there's a Samples folder. Like I was explaining earlier, that there are some out-of-the-box ones that they give to you to kind of use or kind of get you started along the process of making them your own. For our purposes today, like I said, we are going to take a look at the order confirmation. Now you'll notice as you look at the icons on here that they have the little locks on top of the envelope, and that's just because I can't make changes to these particular templates, because that's what they really are, is templates. And it's kind of nice in a way because I modify the out-of-the-box one, so if I ever need to come back and say, oh, you know what, I've made a whole bunch of changes and I realized, oh, I think I kind of broke something that was working quite nicely before, I can always come back and make another copy and kind of build off of it again. So they remain intact, which is kind of nice. But what I'll do is I'll select my order confirmation. I'm going to go to Organize and do a copy. And then do an organize and paste. And depending on how many templates or different communication pieces that you're sending out, you may want to create subfolders within here to allow you to organize things a little bit easier. I don't have a ton, and this is kind of a demo environment, so I just copied it into the same folder, and here it appears, the copy of the order confirmation. So I'm going to open this up. I'm just double clicking on it, and I could have also clicked on it and chose edit. And this is where it gives me this copy of and gives me that information. So from here, what I'm able to do is I see that this is kind of this communication template editor. And right out of the box, this is how it's set up. If I'm going to send this out for my organization, the first thing I'll probably want to do is update this to the correct email address that you want the templates to be coming out of, or the email confirmations to be coming out of from your organization. So for example, I might do something along the lines of Interdyne BMI. I'm going to keep the party because this is going to say, oh, go and look at the person's record, find their email address, and insert that in. The other thing that I can do is if you want or need to have these confirmations going to an additional person, I can do a carbon copy or a blind carbon copy and send them maybe to, if you're doing a lot of product orders, a fulfillment person or someone like that that might want to have copies of these coming into their email. And so you can use the blind or the carbon for that. The subject, you can update this. Right now it's just kind of a generic order confirmation. And then the type is set to billing, and it's just a way to classify the different emails that you could potentially be sending out through iMIS. And this links into some out-of-the-box functionality that they have built in iMIS 20 that allows members to manage their preferences. And so they can do opt-out, so maybe I don't want to receive the newsletter, and they're allowed to opt out. And so if you use the built-in iMIS pieces, you would be able to use that functionality. I think that you can also set up, and I want to say billing might be one of them, that they can't really ever opt out of because you're going to want them to receive billing information no matter what. It's usually just some of the optional pieces that they usually have the ability to opt out of. For right now, I'm going to keep the recipients as it is because we're going to actually use this as part of the checkout process, so we'll be able to see that. And then there's also this additional data sources piece. What's nice about using the templates and the communications out of iMIS, not just for the standard piece that goes out with all the orders, but using the communication suite as a whole, is that you can link in particular fields in the iMIS database and really personalize it when we send it out. This particular email communication simply uses their first name. I could change that. Maybe I want their first name and their last name or something like that. And then there's also this orders detail block, which is a piece that comes out of a different file that right now you have some access to it if you have access to your web server and can modify that. I'll show you what's included in that block. I'm hoping that as they develop the iMIS templates that they're going to move this out of the orders block and maybe have it something that's a little bit more accessible by the user rather than having to dig through that file. But what you can see here on this order confirmation, it's kind of this WYSIWYG editor that you can go ahead and, for example, you know, maybe make some updates. So, for example, I could do this, thank you for your order. Maybe I want to make that bold. And you can always do colors, things like that. And you can, of course, change the verbiage to whatever you'd like it to be. The other piece is, like I said, it's kind of branded for ASI, so maybe I want to get rid of the logo pieces in the footer because that doesn't make a lot of sense for me. I could always update the address. So, for example, Interdyne, you know, I could put in our address, things like that. And then the other piece is I could swap out a logo. And so out here, I clicked on really the images manager. And you may have images out here already, or you may need to add an image. I'm going to add an image that I already loaded, but I'm going to walk through the process as to add that, because if I realized, and I'm going to go back here, once I go to the image manager, I realize, oh, you know what, I didn't load my image. Maybe it's still on my desktop or something like that. There isn't a way to add the images from this image manager area from inside the communication template, so I need to go to another location. So I'm going to say cancel. It's already inserted, and I am going to click on save. So it's gone ahead, it's added in my logo, and of course I would have done something a little bit nicer, maybe to fill up all the space or maybe shrink it down, so I can do kind of whatever pieces that I would like. If I wanted to include maybe a link to our website, something like that, I could do that in the body of the email as well. And if you're familiar with using Rise for managing your site, using kind of the building out of the pages, this editor is very similar. It just has a couple of extra pieces along the lines of being able to insert fields. Like I said before, these are the fields that you have available. So if you wanted to say, you know, dear so-and-so, how's the weather in, and include the city. And so you can do that, and that's just a way to kind of personalize it, make it a little bit more specific to the particular member. So I can do then, once I get this done, I have the ability to preview, although it won't preview because I didn't really have any records out here that need a confirm yet. So I'm going to simply click on save, and I'm going to close this. And I'm having this copy, and really I don't think I like the name of that, so I'm going to maybe do a save as. Save it in the same folder, and I'm going to maybe call it the just so I can kind of remember what it is. So with that said, I have this created, I've made my changes, and I've saved it. I'm going to close out of this. Now right now, if I were to go to the website and try to purchase a product, the email that would get sent out is still that original one because the system settings are still set to be the original order confirmation template. So what I need to do in addition is I need to go to Settings and Commerce in the General page, and it's this top item, the communication template to use for order confirmation. So pretty straightforward. And then I need to do a search for it. So common communications templates samples, and I'm going to use my new Interdyne one. I'm going to click on Save. And it'll go ahead and save that setting. The next piece that I want to do is I'm going to want to see, did it actually apply those changes and kind of test that out. And so what I need to do is I'm going to go in and go to the actual external site. And I'm going to grab the URL here really quick for my member site. And I'm going to open it up in another browser because I don't want it to use the same cookie. And so I am bringing this up in another browser. So this would be my externally facing site that my members would see. So if I sign in, because I want to register and purchase a product, and let's go to my event list. And I'm going to register for an event here. So it should have registered for me for that. I'm also, I think, going to also register for a symposium. And I can also purchase products. I'm going to go to checkout here. I have my particular program, so I thought the Community Day doesn't have a charge on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to do a pay later just because I don't have to type in a credit card. Of course, the pay later option is something you can enable or disable. And I'm going to submit the order. Now you'll notice that I'm not going to get an email because this is a demo environment. And of course, I don't have the SMTP server configured, so that's why I'm getting a message, or will be getting a message here. All right, so this is not the actual confirmation that went out. This is actually a separate content page that you can modify as well. And so really order confirmations have two parts. One is the email, the communication piece, which we're talking about today, and then this is the page that comes up after I've made a purchase. So you can also make changes to this page as well. But you'll notice I got a message saying there's a failure to send the mail. But that isn't the end of the world. I'm going to scoot this over because I was logged in as Brian Murphy into the member site. So what I can do is go to Brian's account and if I look at his participation, you can see I have open invoices, upcoming registrations, things like that, and I apologize, I really should be on the history tab. It is going to give me this recent interactions. This recent interactions area that comes out of the box or is configured like this out of the box is going to give me emails that are generated from iMIS. And so you'll see from today that I have this order confirmation, and I can actually click on it and open it up, and you can see what went out to verify that, yes, it went ahead and built out my order confirmation. You can see it has my new logo. It put in Brian's name because that's who I'm logged in as. You can see it has my updated changes to my text, things like that. Then this piece in here that I have kind of highlighted, that's what's in that orders detail block, and so that kind of is automatically getting built on the fly for us. So you can see that, like I said, it is possible to make changes to that. It's just a separate file that's on your web server. And then you'll notice I took out saying that the address is really located in Roseville. So I can see that information even though I didn't get the email itself. I'm going to click on Close. And so that's really the method that you would use to update the existing order confirmation. I'm going to jump back over here to my slide deck. So we created a copy using the Save As feature. I updated the font, the logo. I could add additional fields. And then we went into the system settings to use the new template. What I wanted to show you next, because I kind of skipped over that piece just to kind of show you the process of uploading or making changes to the template, is I wanted to also show you where I uploaded my image. And so what I did is prior to the webinar, I went in and went to Page Builder and went to Manage Images to get that added. It launches the Image Manager, which you'll notice looks a lot like the Image Manager that we saw when we were actually within the template. The difference is that I have the ability to add folders here and subfolders, which is nice just to manage kind of the different images that I have. I suspect that if you're using Rise to manage either your staff site or your website, you might have a library of images that you maybe don't want just all grouped in one folder. But I can add a folder, which I made an Interdyne folder, but then within the folder, once I open it up, this is where I can say I want to upload, and I would select a file, and I'm going to re-add the same file again, and I'm going to call it I'm going to upload that file, and I know it already exists, so I'm going to say overwrite. If I wanted to add multiple images at a single time, I could do that here. I could add additional ones or add additional lines to keep adding multiple images. And then once I'm ready, I can click on Upload, and it'll upload my image, which makes it then available within my communication template. It also makes it available within Rise if you're building out content the same way. So I'm going to click on Close here, just hit the X, because I then have loaded in my different images. So that was the Manage Image piece where I created that subfolders for images. I uploaded it, and we can use it later in our template. Just a kind of a note, we talked a little bit about the order confirmation, and that's something that automatically is getting sent out. If you like using the communication templates, there are also some different ones out there. If you notice, I had kind of a group of them that came with iMIS. And so another option would be you can use, some of the notifications, and I'd like you to show you that here. Is that I'm going to start out looking at the different communication templates. And there are different ones out here in the samples folder. And so before the webinar, what I did is I took the event reminder, I made a copy of it, and that became my event reminder for the demo. So that's all I did. I went in, same process of copying it, make changes. I think I threw in a view the event page here as a URL to kind of take a peek at things. Again, I would want to make sure that this is coming from the correct email address, things like that. This might be events@Interdyne or something along those lines. And you can also use code in here for the subject line that it's a reminder for the particular event that we're going to run it from. So I'm going to close that. That's the template. But if I go into events and I go to find an event, and I can either search for it or I can say, I know I want to choose the annual gala. And if I go to the registrants page, I see a list of the people that have registered. I also have this option for email here where I can open and it will allow me to select a particular template. And so I want to use my, where do we have it? Event reminder demo. Of course, I would update my do that kind of thing. The other piece that I didn't have as part of the order confirmation, although you could make changes to your template, is maybe that for this particular event that I'm sending this reminder to say that they're registered. Maybe I also want to attach a file that gives them information about the venue or, a survey maybe that's coming up that they could look at beforehand. So I would make any changes there. And then what I can also do is take a look, and I can do this via a preview. And it will go ahead and generate the information for everybody that's registered for the event. And so these different people are registered. Of course, they need to have an email address, so some of them might be blank because they didn't have an email address. But then I could say to send those out now, and it would go ahead and email them with that information. I could also, run it from here and do a send now. So that's a kind of a nice, quick way to send out email information that's kind of using those same communication templates similar to the order confirmation. But I kind of wanted to show that as part of the functionality that's available within RISE. Jumping back over, like I said, I chose the email, the template. I could select the attendees. Sorry, I should have shown you that too. As a part of this, if I only want to email certain people, maybe these folks without email addresses, well, of course, it doesn't make sense to email them. If I go to choose my recipients, this is where I could say, ooh, you know what, Dan Morris doesn't have an email address, so maybe I want to take him off. I want to do Jerry and Amy, Brian, Karen, John, and Michelle. And then if I go back to return to compose, it would only send the emails out to those particular people. So you have the ability to send it to a group or a subgroup here within an event. So jumping back here, that's the select the attendees option, and then of course I can send the email. So really that's kind of what I have around modifying the order confirmation, and we talked a little bit about how to add in images if you haven't done that already, and then using some of the communication templates that are out there for other purposes, like for example doing the follow-up emails for an event or something like that. So I really, I guess, want to open it up to any questions or things that you are wondering along the way.
Okay, we do have a question in the queue. And again, on the right-hand side, simply type in the questions that you would like to ask Michelle, and we'll get those addressed. The first one comes from Brian. It says, can you add conditional statements in templates? Example, if product equals XYZ, include a link.
There isn't, I don't have anyone that I've done that specifically for the include a link if the product, they purchase a particular product. However, there is functionality within orders that you can say when you're setting up, I want to say setting up the product, that you mark it and say that as a part of the confirmation pieces that it sends a separate email. So for example, if you are selling downloadable products that they just need to go after I purchase it, you're going to give them a URL to go download the product. There is functionality just built within orders for you to do that and set that up and give them that URL that gets separately after they check out. And so hopefully that, I'm wondering maybe if that kind of solves what you're looking for, or am I going down the wrong path?
And I can take Brian off. Let's see if I can do that. Let's just make sure that we have that right. Brian, I'm taking you off mute. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
All right, perfect.
Wonderful.
Excellent. All right, again, any other questions? Type those into the queue. I don't see any others right at this moment. Oh, here comes one. Good job, Cindy. Within an events confirm, can you send separate emails for various functions only?
Thinking about that. What you could do is, the answer is yes, it's a little less slick than when I came into here that I just went to the registrants list. Although, if I go back over here, there's a couple of things I'm thinking that might be able to solve for that. Oh, sorry about that. I really wanted to go to the dashboard. Is that we have a list of the registration options for each program item. I think this is going to kick me a report, but what we have the ability to do is that we could create, so this just gives me, it's going to give me each one of the functions. What I would say we would want to do to solve that is we could do an IQA query that maybe you put in which function you wanted to run it for, that it was just an open parameter or filter that you put in the function information, and then you get back that the who had registered for that function, and then we can include on IQA queries the ability to have that email button, and so it would look like it did over here on this registrants piece, because this is just an IQA query, that we could have this email piece included. So you could click on it and then bring it up is probably what I'm thinking right off the bat that you could do to solve for that. So out of the box, just what ASI has built, no, but I think that it would be fairly straightforward to just create a generic IQA query where you said, look for this function, and then we just, it's basically a checkbox on the content piece that we can say, put this button on for the records that I return, and then send out an email. When you click on the email piece, then of course you can choose a particular template.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Makes sense, she said. All right. I don't see any other questions in the queue. So Michelle, great job. It's always fun to get these tidbits from you, and really, really important for those in the nonprofit market to know all of this information. So thank you. Great job. And thank you, everybody. Again, get in touch with us if you would like additional questions answered specifically for you, if we can help you in any way. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to next month. Thank you. Great job, Michelle.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.